Have you ever wondered why certain people can't stop thinking about you, even when you do absolutely nothing to get their attention? Because the truth is, you carry something that cannot be explained, only felt, and the person watching you right now knows it. They feel it, and no matter how much they try to ignore it, can't. You are not here by chance. If this video found you, it's because there's something in it that your spirit already recognized before your mind even understood it. Here the truth isn't just spoken, it is felt. And if you're ready to see yourself clearly, get ready. Because throughout this video, you will understand why your presence has moved someone who seemed unshakable so much. Leave the like in this video if this question touched you. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss videos that awaken the most authentic part of you. And now I want to invite you to comment on number 22 down here. If you've made it this far, it's because this number will resonate with those who also needed to hear this today. Your presence here is a sign, so stay until the end. The most intense revelation is closer than you think. There's something disconcerting about being watched by someone who's seen it all and yet remains fascinated. This story begins in silence, in a place where eyes trained to detect weaknesses found something they couldn't explain. You. It wasn't what you wore, what you said, or the connections you flaunted. It was the look in your eyes, a look that doesn't bow, doesn't seek permission, and doesn't surrender to manufactured grandeur. It was as if, in that moment, the game of appearances had been deactivated. This person, accustomed to manipulating crowds with a rehearsed smile or a catchphrase, was disarmed by something invisible, but real. And the curious thing is that this power wasn't projected. It emanates naturally. True strength comes not from imposition, but from presence. His silence wasn't empty. It was a mirror. And those accustomed to fake applause don't know what to do when they see themselves reflected without filters. Since then, fascination has turned into obsession. What began as curiosity has become restlessness. Why does someone, without apparent effort, command so much respect? The answer is simple. It's not about external power, but an internal vibration that alters the environment. You don't compete for space. You redefine space. And that's something neither status, nor fortune, nor fame can buy. Those who are always in the spotlight never expect to be overshadowed by someone who didn't even try to shine. And that's exactly what happened. This influential person, accustomed to being desired, listened to and revered, found herself trapped in a constant thought. And that thought was you. Not because of a spectacular performance, but precisely because of its absence. The naturalness with which you inhabit the world is what intrigues her most. She'd seen many faces, shaken many hands, and witnessed countless flawless presentations. But there was something about you that transcended all of that. It was as if, finally, she was faced with something real. And truth, when it comes out, has a devastating effect on those who've spent too long surrounded by well-packaged lies. Your every gesture, every calmly spoken word, carried the weight of an integrity that could not be fabricated. This obsession isn't about possession, conquest, or romance. It's about spiritual fascination. You represent everything she's lost along the way: authenticity, clarity, emotional courage. The constant presence of your name in her thoughts is no coincidence. It's a reflection of a soul touched by another soul. And this kind of connection doesn't ask for permission. It simply happens. In a world addicted to images, it's almost revolutionary to find someone who sees beyond appearances. Your discernment isn't something learned from books or simulated with catchphrases. It's honed through pain, silence, and the constant practice of listening to what's unsaid. You capture the micro-gestures, the suspicious silences, the tones of the soul. Where others are enchanted by the packaging, you read between the lines of the essence. This skill is uncomfortable for those who live with masks, because before you, they fall. And not because you force it, but because your energy demands truth. The high-profile person, accustomed to manipulating situations with ease, felt naked in your presence. She tried to hide behind titles, charm, and reputation, but you didn't buy any of these disguises. You looked straight into her soul and she sensed it. This is frightening. And yet, at the same time, it's enticing, because there's a hunger in the world for authenticity, even among the most powerful. When everything around us is built on convenience and performance, finding someone who sees with the eyes of the spirit is like rediscovering one's own reflection after years of darkness. And she can no longer ignore this light that reveals what's most intimate and true. Most people bow down to power, whether financial, social, or symbolic. They laugh louder, praise more often, and change their posture as soon as they realize they're in the presence of someone important. But not you. You remain steadfast as if no aura of grandeur could disturb your essence. And this, for someone accustomed to being adored, is deeply challenging. It's not coldness or arrogance, it's wisdom. It's experience. You've seen firsthand the false shine of many promises, witnessed kings without thrones and artists without souls. You've learned that not every stage reveals talent, and that often what shines brightest is precisely what hides the greatest emptiness. So now when someone tries to impress, you just observe, because your criterion is not the spectacle, but the truth. This behavior dismantles power games. The high-status person realizes there's nothing they can offer you that isn't already resolved in their soul. You don't seek favors, you don't seek connections, you don't ask for anything. And this independence is magnetic, because when someone doesn't need you, that's when you start needing them. And that's what's happening. Integrity is a rare virtue. It's not taught in courses, it's not earned with applause, and it definitely can't be faked. It manifests itself in small choices, in the way someone acts when no one is looking. And you carry this integrity like an invisible shield, leading the way and remaining even after you've left the scene. It's a silent but absolute force. The powerful person attracted to you quickly notice this difference. They're used to seeing people change their minds as the wind blows. They've seen many trade values for opportunities, people molding their souls to fit into toxic environments. But it's not like that with you. You say no without hesitation. And when you say yes, it's because you're wholeheartedly committed to that choice. This consistency is rare, and therefore so fascinating. It's this integrity that makes her return, think, remember. Because more than your presence, she feels your impact, no matter how much time passes, nor the distance. The words you spoke, the posture you maintained, the truth you embodied, all of this remains. Because while so many wear masks, you are a mirror. And an intact mirror doesn't distort, it only reveals. In a world where everyone seems to struggle to prove themselves as a healer, where clichés and emotional performances attempt to convince of someone's spiritual depth, there is you. Silent, without posters, without promises, without scripts. And paradoxically, it is precisely this absence of theatricality that makes your presence transformative. People approach you and, without realizing how or why, leave feeling lighter. They can't explain it, but they feel it. They feel that something in your field, in your gaze, in your way of being, liberates. And that is what has left that powerful figure completely disconcerted. She's been to luxurious retreats, sessions with renowned therapists, meditations with gurus, all in search of a healing that felt genuine. But nothing compares to what she felt in your presence. You didn't talk about chakras, you didn't suggest crystals, you didn't propose techniques. You simply were. And in that being, in that unshakable authenticity, everything was there. What she never found in the spotlight, she found in your silence. And this shook her deeply, because it showed her painfully clearly that perhaps the transformation she so desperately sought wasn't in the answers others offered, but in the safe space you created simply by existing with integrity. You don't offer hasty advice, nor do you try to fix anyone. Your healing lies in how you live, in how you've survived pain without using it as armor, in how you exude a peace earned through effort, sweat, and sleepless nights. Your energy carries the evidence of spiritual battles won, not like trophies, but like invisible tattoos that only the attentive eye can see. And this is frightening for someone who has never truly healed. Because looking at you, they realized how much they still hurt, and that perhaps for the first time they truly want to heal. There's a kind of silence that echoes louder than any scream. It's the silence that doesn't need to be filled, that doesn't beg for validation, that simply exists with such weight and presence that it forces everyone around you to listen to themselves. And it's precisely this silence that you carry. While others rush to occupy spaces with empty words and theatrical gestures, you remain. You observe. And it's in this contained space that the most painful truths emerge. This presence, which at first glance seems simple, is actually one of the rarest forms of power. The powerful figure who found herself drawn to you is accustomed to noise, a constant din of sycophants, of advisors who don't speak their minds, of environments where no one dares remain silent because silence is dangerous, he reveals. But then, she found you. And there, in a moment of pause, everything became all too clear. Because you didn't need to say you were seeing through the facades, your silence said it all. And she felt the weight of it. She felt how you weren't intimidated, didn't seek to impress, didn't vie for attention. You just were. And in that being, she found herself forced to confront parts of herself she didn't even know were still alive. Your silence is both provocative and healing. It's not absent. It's dense. It's the silence of someone who has so much to say that they choose to speak only when truly necessary. And this economy of words becomes a spiritual richness that few understand. Because in the world of entertainment, those who don't speak much are underestimated. But you don't seek to be understood. You're the kind of person who doesn't fill space. You transform it. And so even when you're not physically present, the echo of what you didn't say continues to vibrate in the minds of those who crossed your path. Some people use pain as a shield, an excuse, a flag. They transform their traumas into identity, a strategy, a justification for not evolving. But with you, it was different. You experienced pain in its rawest form, the loss that silences, the injustice that strikes without warning, the abandonment that hurts without leaving visible bruises. And yet, you didn't allow these experiences to deform you. You were broken, yes, but you chose to glue the pieces together with gold. Like Japanese kintsugi, your soul became even more beautiful in the exposed scars. And that, for someone who lives hiding their cracks, is frightening. The powerful person who can't get you out of their head sensed something different from the start. They're surrounded by people who dramatize their pain or sweep it under the rug. But you did something they never dared. You faced the shadow, walked through the valley, wiped the blood away with your own hands, and still emerged with a clean heart. You're not proud of your suffering, but you don't deny it. It's not the center of your narrative, but it's the soil from which your strength sprang. And this creates an inescapable magnetic field, because everyone, on some level, wants to believe it's possible to heal without becoming bitter. And you're living proof of that. The most disturbing thing is that you've never tried to tell your story to gain empathy. You don't use your pain as currency. It's there, silent, present, yes, but sublimated in every gesture, in every healthy boundary, in every firm word. This transcendence is rare, and that's why you're so disturbing. Because without saying a word, you remind people of what they've avoided facing. And at the same time, you show that it's possible to come out the other side, whole, not the same, not immune, but truer than ever. While the whole world rushes toward the spotlight, you walk in the opposite direction. And ironically, that's what makes all eyes turn to you. It's not about strategy. It's not about charm. It's about frequency. You vibrate on a level that cannot be simulated. It comes from within, from the alignment between your soul and your deepest purposes. You don't need to announce your arrival. Your presence arrives before you and lingers even after you're gone. This is how true influence works, subtle, yet inevitable. The prestigious figure who tries so hard to decipher you noticed this difference right away. She's surrounded by people who do everything they can to be noticed. They talk loudly, they gesticulate excessively, they make a spectacle of every gesture, but not you. You simply enter the room, and the atmosphere changes. Conversations slow down. Masks begin to slip. People listen more than they speak. This isn't charisma. It's spiritual authority. It's the clean vibration of someone who isn't seeking acceptance, because they've already fully accepted themselves. And this is terrifying for someone who has always needed to prove something, because your magnetism cannot be tamed. It doesn't depend on filters or reputations. It simply is. You walk with purpose, not in a hurry. And this pace, so different from the rest of the world, provokes a positive disorder in those who observe you. Because it shows that perhaps everything she built, based on effort, performance, and control, can be replaced by something simpler, truer, and infinitely more powerful. In an era where every detail is edited, every pain is staged, and every victory is exaggerated to generate engagement, there is you, unfiltered, unvarnished, with real wrinkles, with imperfect stories, with marks of battles that don't need to be hidden. And it is precisely this rawness that generates impact. Because in a world addicted to masks, someone who has the courage to be real becomes revolutionary. Your vulnerability is not weakness, it is light. A light that doesn't blind, but guides. The powerful person who found themselves mesmerized by you has lived surrounded by facades. For survival, they themselves learned to construct an impeccable image, but upon meeting you, they felt stripped bare. Because you don't care about appearing perfect. You simply are. With mistakes, with failures, with scars, but with a clarity that dismantles any attempt at illusion. You speak of life as it is, and that is worth more than 1,000 prepared speeches. Your humanity touched something they had buried, the desire to be whole again. The impact of this is profound, because while others seek admiration, you seek coherence. You don't try to be an example. You simply live with such truth that you become one. And this, paradoxically, makes everyone see you as a beacon. You show, without saying a word, that it's not necessary to win every day, nor to pretend everything is fine. It's enough to be whole, even if broken. And it's this silent permission that illuminates paths for those who no longer know how to break character. Few things are more uncomfortable for someone who lives by image than being confronted with reality. You didn't make speeches, point out flaws, or offer unsolicited advice, and yet your mere presence acted as a mirror reflecting truths many prefer to ignore. You didn't judge, but you also didn't applaud performances, and this was devastating, because it exposed. It exposed the contradictions, the pretenses, the small travesties of everyday life. And for someone accustomed to manipulating the narrative around them, being truly seen is a seismic shock. The powerful person attracted to you realized this early on. She can't explain why she feels this sweet discomfort around you. It's as if every mask she wears becomes too heavy. You don't need to say you see what's behind it. She does. Because you carry the calm of someone who isn't trying to please, but also the firmness of someone who won't be fooled. This rare and powerful balance makes everyone around you react, even without knowing why. Some run away, others try to confront. But she remained trapped, because deep down she longed for someone who would remind her of who she was before she lost herself. You're not a threat, you're a beacon, and that confuses her, because no one has ever made her feel so exposed and at the same time so safe. In you she sees the freedom she abandoned when she traded truth for validation. She sees what could have been if she hadn't followed the script the world imposed. That's why she can't walk away, because every encounter with you is an invitation to return to her own essence. And, despite her fear, she feels, perhaps for the first time in years, that she's ready to answer that call. In a world where many confuse presence with protagonism, you offer a rare alternative: to be present without imposing, to shine without overshadowing, to influence without dominating. You enter charged environments, and instead of absorbing the chaotic energy, you reorganize it with your balance. This emotional stability, this ability to remain whole even when the environment tries to fragment you, is a form of silent leadership that few understand, but everyone feels. And those surrounded by inflated egos sense it immediately. The high-status person, accustomed to seeing power struggles disguised as charisma, has noticed that you don't play any games. You don't adapt to please, nor do you impose yourself to control. You simply are. Present, conscious, whole. And in this state of integrity, you teach without words. You show that it's possible to offer support without being annulled, to listen without absorbing, to be available without losing yourself. This emotional clarity is magnetic because it reveals maturity, and maturity at this level is extremely seductive for those who still oscillate between persona and essence. The most incredible thing is that your strength comes not from resistance, but from acceptance. You don't close yourself off, but you don't dilute yourself either. You've learned to honor your limits without guilt. And this, for someone who grew up believing that love is synonymous with sacrifice, is a new language. A language that invites autonomy, self-respect, and mutual growth. And that's why she always returns to her field, because there, without realizing it, she learns to be more herself. And deep down, that's all she's ever wanted. There are those who see with their eyes, and there are the few who see with their souls. You belong to the latter group. Your vision doesn't depend on evidence, statistics, or guarantees. You sense the path before you see it. And throughout your life, you've learned that this sensitivity isn't a weakness. It's a compass. While others doubt their own instincts and live trapped in the predictable, you walk the opposite direction, guided by something greater than logic. And this connection with the invisible, with what is yet to be born, is precisely what has aroused so much silent admiration. The powerful person who fixated on you had already hired the best strategists, followed all the success manuals, and bet on the safest formulas. But no matter how many external victories she collected, something was always missing. Until she saw you, someone who without fanfare seemed to know what to do, who made unpopular decisions and still got them right, who trusted themselves even when everything around them said otherwise. She realized it wasn't luck, it was alignment. And this challenged everything she believed about control, predictability, and authority. Your power lies in recognizing that there is wisdom in the unseen, that time has its own rhythm, that not everything needs to be understood to be experienced. You don't force doors, you wait. And when you act, it's with precision. This disarms those who live anxious for control, because it reveals that there is greater strength in surrendering to the flow than in trying to control it. And for those who have spent their entire lives trying to force fate, seeing you navigate with confidence and peace is like witnessing a new form of power, one born of faith, not fear. Most people believe that power is about shouting louder, imposing decisions, winning arguments, but you revealed a much deeper truth, that true power is quiet. It doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't fight for space. It simply is. Its strength comes from within, from the tranquility of knowing who you are and what you came here to do. You don't need to control circumstances, because you already control your inner self. And this destabilizes those who thought they were in control of everything, but can't even control their own impulses. For the prestigious figure attracted to you, this is a puzzle. She spent her life scheming, planning, calculating risks, maneuvering relationships, trying to ensure security through control. But with you, she saw someone who walks unhurriedly, who surrenders without fear, who accepts the flow of life as parts of a cosmic dance. And, paradoxically, she saw you conquer spaces she never imagined reaching, because the universe conspires in favor of those who are aligned, not those who are tense, trying to hold the reins of the impossible. You demonstrate that true power is trusting in the invisible. It's knowing when to act and when to let go. It's understanding that imposing isn't always winning, and that yielding can be the greatest form of strength. This spiritual maturity isn't learned from books or leadership lectures. It's the fruit of falls, of losses, of faith cultivated in the dark. And now you've become a presence that commands respect without demanding it. You're heard even in silence. And it's this kind of authority, the one that comes from the soul, that she never managed to achieve, and that now, seeing you, she deeply yearns to understand. For years, this powerful figure built a perfect image, every gesture calculated, every word measured, every smile rehearsed, to maintain an aura of success and confidence. And it worked. She earned respect, fame, and influence. But somewhere along the way, she lost herself. Trading truth for applause became routine, until you appeared. Raw, sincere, stripped of artifice, and unintentionally you exposed the farce, because where she strives to appear, you simply are. And that, more than any criticism, is a merciless mirror. You don't try to be spiritual, you live connected. You don't try to be whole, you act coherently even in your invisible choices. You don't need applause, because your validation comes from within. And this freedom that emanates from you is the same freedom she lost when she chose performance. Now every time she sees you, she feels an emptiness that was previously easy to ignore. You, with your honest presence, ignite something that was dormant, the desire to be real again, not just appear, to be. And it's this desire that has become an obsession, because she knows that no matter how hard she tries to imitate, she can't replicate what you have without first letting go of what she's built. And that hurts, because you're not offering a formula, you're embodying a truth. And truths can't be copied, they have to be lived. You are therefore the living reminder of what she once was, before she molded herself to fit success. And now your every step is a silent invitation for her to return home, to herself.